Should we get started?
I think we can start, and we'll share, as a reminder, this is being recorded. We will share the recording and the presentation afterwards. So don't feel like if you missed anything, I won't have access to this. And Jean, I'll turn it over to you to kick us off.
Can we go to the next slide, please? Thanks. Welcome, everyone. Delighted to have a chance to give you a little bit of an introduction to this year's President's and Chancellor's Challenge. I'm Jean Hassenloff. I'm the Vice President for Research and Innovation at Marquette, and I've been engaged with this since the start of what was originally called the President's Challenge. So we'll go through an overview of this year's competition. We'll have some time for questions, but we also want to spend a little bit of time with one of our past awardees so we can learn a bit from his experience. And then we'll have time for additional questions after that. So if we go ahead, let me first start by giving you a little bit of history here. Mike Lovell and the leadership of Grady Crosby of the Johnson Controls Foundation several years ago decided to do something that would focus Marquette faculty research in partnership with community members to bring interdisciplinary teams together to think around, to work on a shared goal. And the big picture goal here is that we are looking to fund projects that start this process of creating sustainable solutions, really with the understanding that we're looking to change the trajectory of lives in our community. And this is language that the Johnson Controls Foundation take very seriously about their efforts in the neighborhoods surrounding their facilities here in Milwaukee. In the past, our first round of competition was an open one. We did not designate topics. And then we did look at the inequities of how the pandemic impacted populations in our city one year. Another year, we looked at racial injustice in our community and put folks together to work on that with partnerships. I am delighted that the Johnson Controls Foundation is continuing to support and be partners with us in this, and really excited this year that UW-Milwaukee is joining us. And I think that this will really expand our ability to put collaborative teams together and increase the impact of what we do for the Milwaukee community. Our competition this year is going to focus around critical issues to help start to alleviate poverty in Milwaukee. And we're really trying to look longer, that this is a starting point of what we hope to be longer term engagements around creating sustainable solutions. We anticipate that 2 or 3 projects will be funded this year in the range of $50,000 to $75,000 for each project. We go on to the next slide. As we were thinking about this, we drew inspiration from the UN Sustainability Goals to think about potential topics or focus areas that you might want to think about. Obviously, poverty touches on many aspects of people's lives in our community, and there may be other topical foci that aren't listed here, but that would help you as you bring your teams together. One of the really important things about the President's and Chancellor's Challenge is that we look for this to be collaborative and to be solutions oriented in its focus. So we're not looking just for academic research, but research that's driven by the needs of the community and is really moving towards solutions or problem solving. And so the slide will be available, but again, I think that there are additional topics beyond the ones here, so you don't have to limit yourselves to these in your thinking. Let's go on. The applications will be reviewed by a team that includes representatives from community groups, as well as UW-Milwaukee, Marquette, and JCI. The final decision gets made by the senior leadership, President, Chancellor, and leadership of the JCI Foundation. The criteria for evaluation are shown on the slide here. We look carefully at how you describe what the intended outcomes of your project are, in the 18-month period that you'll be working on, how you're going to evaluate the project's impact, and then what's your thinking towards sustainability for the outcomes that you create together with your partners. The second bullet is really critical. Engagement with the community organization is expected from start to finish in these projects. We will be looking to see if there's evidence of how you've engaged with community in formulating the project itself, and then how you intend to work together, and how community, either through an organization or community members, will participate in the implementation of the project. We'll try to assess how well a team is set up to accomplish its work during an 18-month time frame. So you don't want to overpromise either. You want to be able to create specific milestones that you can accomplish within the time frame of the funding. We'll look at the experience and composition of the team, and we also strongly encourage student involvement. So that will be a factor when people are reviewing. When you go to apply, here are the minimum requirements for what a team must look like. They should have at least one faculty member from each of the 2 academic institutions, and at least one community organization or community partner. In the past, so for the Marquette folks on the call, we were a little more prescriptive in terms of the composition of a Marquette team of faculty in different areas, that we had to have a STEM, a social scientist, and humanities person. We are not going to require that kind of composition, but we encourage you to think in an interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary fashion, because these problems require us to think from multiple perspectives. And again, as I noted in the previous slide, your community organization or your community partners are really a critical part of this process. And so we look forward to kind of seeing how you put your team together. We encourage you to think about whether additional organizations or partners are important, and certainly to involve students, even in the earlier stages of thinking about your projects, is always a good thing. We will have a budget workshop that will give you some of the nuts and bolts on the requirements. We are working together with UW-Milwaukee and Marquette folks to outline exactly how, which financial guidelines and how to set up your budgets. And we will provide support for figuring out how to put a budget together that meets these criteria. I will note that, it's important to have external partners and engaged in this process. And so subawards that recognize and compensate your partners for their activities within the project is a really important element in the budget, and we will handle that through subawards. And each proposal will require, when it's submitted as a final form, a budget, but the final details are negotiated after the projects are selected. So there may be some modification to budgets, but we will do that in partnership with the winning teams. Here's our timeline. We have pre-proposals due, and the pre-proposal is really just a check-in form. Okay, so we're not going to ask you to write an extended narrative about your project, but we're going to be looking for you to identify what your general topic is, and we know that this will evolve in the course of planning your proposal. We'll look to see who you already have at the table in terms of planning your project, and this allows us to provide assistance for you as you develop your proposal if you're looking to find collaborators. If you are at one university and you have a community partner, but you don't have faculty at the other campus, we can help you find folks. If you're still looking to develop relationships or community partnerships, we can work on that if you have budget questions. So the purpose of the check-in form is for us to kind of get a sense of who's interested in applying, and for us to then be able to build out coaching, mentoring sessions that we'll make available in August and September, and really be able to give you the kind of assistance you need to develop your projects. We will do a budget preparation workshop on September 22nd. We'll also record that. And that will give you a chance to ask your more specific questions. We have found people, don't get to the specific budget questions until pretty late in the process. And so hopefully that will give you enough time then to get everything put together for an October 7th application deadline. And we have a website set up, and the forms will be made available there, as well as additional supporting information. And for many of you in this room, I don't need to lecture anybody on what good community engaged scholarship is, but we also recognize that we'll have some faculty engaged whose research topics or research expertise is really important to these projects, but maybe have not had as much experience with working in partnership with community to formulate research questions and to engage in the partnership. So I will just highlight that we do have guiding principles and some early stage considerations that might be helpful to you and your group as you're starting to put your partnerships together. And I know Walt will be talking a little bit later, and he'll be able to tell us a bit about his own experiences with building partnerships and working well on a community engaged project. We will also be putting together some mentoring and consultation, and the folks here who help coordinate the challenge are always available for brainstorming, for thinking about how to structure your process, your partnerships, and any ongoing questions. So we really encourage people to reach out to us. A really simple way to get your question in is to use innovation@marquette.edu. That is our innovation email box, and that is monitored on a daily basis, and we'll be able to push the question to the right person. And there's certainly links to everything on the website that will be available with the PowerPoint. And I want to conclude this section by once again thanking the Johnson Controls Foundation. Their generosity in helping underwrite this, and their contributions to the framing of what we're trying to do together have been so critical all along, and we are really pleased to have them continuing their partnership with Marquette and UW-Milwaukee as we continue to work together to make the lives of people in Milwaukee better. So with that, Kelsey, we were going to pause for a minute and see if anybody had any specific questions.
Yeah, people can use the chat, or feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself, and we'll take any questions right now while they might be fresh before we chat with Walt.
Reshape the start time for the 18 months. Thanks, Ann. I think we're anticipating that budgets will work things through for budgets to start January of 2023. Yeah, I think there's a hand up. I can't quite see the name though on my computer.
Yes, Danielle, you can unmute yourself.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Kelsey. Good to see you again. I just wanted to ask if we're currently, we currently have a project going on with UWM/Marquette right now for a different project. Am I allowed to apply to keep that going, that project going? And is there any specific areas of interest you have? Is there anything that certain areas of interest that we should be applying for within?
So if you're looking to continue a project that's already in place, I think the important things would be to kind of demonstrate what this new funding could do beyond what you've already been doing. And again, we're pretty flexible as long as you can draw out the connection for the impact of poverty on the community. But we're not preferencing any one area over another right now.
Okay.
That help?
It helps. Thank you.
So the question about how to identify an individual from Marquette or UWM to work with us, I will type the email into the chat. And if you just send an email with the description of, kind of what you're looking for, we'll be able to try and start looking for potential contacts for you. So this would be for Karen. And then, does a community organization have to be a nonprofit, or can it be for profit? We do not require that it be a nonprofit organization. All right, I will continue to watch the chat. And so if another question pops up, but I want to turn it back because I think it'll be really helpful to hear from Walt.
Great, thanks, Jean. Walt, welcome. Thanks for joining us today and sharing a little bit of your story. Just to kind of ground everyone, you were a previous President's Challenge awardee. Can you share a little bit about the project that you submitted and worked on?
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. It's an esteemed group. I'm very humble to be among you guys today, so thanks for listening to me. I'm trained as a clinical epidemiologist, and I got hired in the Department of Computer Science to teach data science, and it would be an understatement to say that receiving the President's Challenge Award has truly changed my research life completely. So I am trained, like I've been running clinical trials and building research centers and, trying to transform human health using medications or interventions and so forth. And early during SARS, what people call the COVID-19 pandemic, the President's Challenge was announced, and I saw an incredible opportunity simply based on the fact that 400,000 people in the state of Wisconsin, more than 25% of which are kids, are food insecure just in the eastern part of the state. And I had started an early talk and some early discussions with some folks at Feeding America. That was our community partner. And I looked at some of their standard practices, and I saw many opportunities for data science to come in and really transform the way that they do business. And at first they were not sure, right? They had no idea what to expect. I don't know that I had an idea of exactly what to expect either. So we started talking, and we laid out some specific objectives about how we could pair data science and specifically data science training, so student work, with the needs that they were facing, because at that time they were experiencing a doubling in the amount of food that was being requested in our community, simply due to increased unemployment, people working from home, wages going down, so on and so forth. So food insecurity really started to skyrocket early in that SARS pandemic. And so we partnered up, and we decided to try to put some students on some projects and see whether or not we could help Feeding America optimize the way that they distribute food to people in our community using data science solutions.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go off script a little bit of my questions.
Please.
What was the outcome after your award period? And what did you learn? It's not
We're not even done. We're not even close to done. So I've got a research student this summer. So if you're successful, and this is such a great platform to launch from, right? Like, I've got a research student in Pennsylvania who's coming through a different funding mechanism through our department. And she is now quantifying the effect of inflation on the pounds of food provided to every single county in the state of Wisconsin, which is something that we can translate nationally, just based on what we early did with Feeding America in trying to help them operationalize and optimize how they do business. And furthermore, now we're beginning to run experiments to try to optimize the distribution of food in rural communities. So it's like you see the epidemiologist in me come out, but instead of treating human health, we're tackling disparities that we see between rural and non-rural communities in how we distribute food to people who need it most. So yeah, it's very cool. We're very lucky. And I'm a small representation of a much larger team, some really talented people, amazing students, and strong community alignment with what we've done. So very fortunate, very humble. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing all of that. What a testament. I want to talk about your community partner, Feeding America, a little bit, and maybe walk us through the process of engagement with them. You said earlier they were a little unsure at first. How did you build
Absolutely.
trust? How did you guys work as co-applicants on the application and submission? And then what did the relationship look like after you got the award on an ongoing research basis?
So it's evolving, right? So I don't know that I can specifically answer the last part of that question, but it definitely started with, who is this guy talking about data science? All we want to do is get food to food pantries, load trucks, that kind of thing. So I tried to take some of the challenges that they said and show them using other data sets and other examples how statistical techniques and computer science can meaningfully transform decision making. And some of the early ways we did that were using visual analytics. And so we were able to show them prototypical applications that students had developed, not specific to food insecurity, but specific to other community motivated types of challenges. And I think that started to build some confidence, but then we had to get a student right out of the gates. And actually we assigned 3 students to this. Right out of the gates, we had 4 students. We ended up having a total of 6. Now our team is at more than 10 students. It just continues to grow, which is fantastic. So showing them examples, not from their data sets, but from parallel data sets, and helping them understand how we could meaningfully transform decision making, and then translating it for them. So if we do this using your data set, we can help you achieve X, Y, and Z. And then I found a few people, middle management, now are like leaders of the organization, who saw that vision and were willing to at least spend, if I had to estimate, 1 hour per week as I was iterating on the grant. So ideating, what are things that you guys want to add? Help me because I'm not an expert in hunger relief or food insecurity by any stretch, right? So I needed those subject matter experts on my side, and they were willing to take an hour a week, right? And be like, all right, well, the biggest problems we're facing this week are X, Y, and Z. I say, okay, give me a few days to think about it and I'll rewrite the draft application. And then we would just kind of iterate on that. Eventually we honed in on a couple specific aims. Everyone was really happy with it. Apparently the reviewers were happy with it too. Yeah, it was if you feel like it's a fast pace, I think you're doing it right. Does that answer the question? I think the beginning and the middle, it's hard for me to talk about the end because we're not done.
Well, that's probably a good thing that the relationship was great and it's continuing to evolve. I think that's an awesome sign. And I think you gave some really good tangible examples for people to think about with their own research and building the trust and relationships so that you lay the groundwork.
Can I go off script for a second?
Please.
So Gene was like, hey, Walt, join us on this leadership thing or something. I don't remember what it's called. I'm sorry. I'm too Midwest casual. So we actually, as a team, like during the President's Challenge or whatever it's called now, we actually had conversations about who we are, what our motivating factors are, what we have in common, and what our ethic is going to be as a collaborative team. And I can tell you, some of them really stand out. Like, we agree, if you're not having fun working with us, don't work with us. That's true for every student, every leader, everyone involved in the project. You have to have fun. That's rule number 1. Number 2, small wins. And number 3, you got to be authentic. right? We're all just transparent and authentic with each other. If we're feeling like the project's not heading in the right direction, we just call each other out. And kind of identifying that, and maybe if there's some early signs, that I think that could really help a team hone their message, right? If an ethic comes across in the application, I think the reviewers are going to feel it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we clicked pretty early.
That's awesome. And I think you've spent time building the relationship, which is what I'm hearing too. And the research outcome is important, but the relationship to do really meaningful work deserves a lot of time and dedication too.
Yeah. Making sure everyone's heading in the same direction.
Love it. What advice do you have? We have a lot of people on the call here that are faculty from UWM that are new to this, Marquette people that maybe have not applied before, and community partners. What advice do you have? What do you wish you knew 2 years ago when you were, starting to think about applying?
I think Jean did a really nice job of laying out the expectations, right? Your office is fantastic. So toward the end, I said the pre-planning feedback that I received, so before the final application went in, was immensely valuable, right? We put our best thoughts on a piece of paper, but your team was willing to read through it and give us some guidance and some thoughts. Like the question about how do you identify the best collaborators? Sending it to a totally naive audience and hearing your evaluation of what we're thinking about was incredibly valuable. Then we could be like, oh, we need to pick up an anthropologist, or oh, we need to pick up someone else from another department. So taking advantage of that to the degree possible. I know that there's always a time crunch. That was really great. Create a Gantt chart early, right? If you can't put what you want to do into bubbles and put it on a timeline, as a reviewer, I'm not a reviewer for this, but I don't think I am. I would have difficulty believing that it could be pulled off in 18 months. And I think we were able to put together a timeline eventually, and that was really helpful. Prioritizing student involvement, I do think that resonated with the committee. So the vast majority of our budget funded student work. We gave some money to our community partner as like a subaward to kind of buy out time of some of the senior leadership, but the vast majority went to students, and that model worked really well for us. And honestly, like, this is just me in general. I don't like moving the needle. I like breaking the gauge. So I would recommend that people be as ambitious as they think they possibly can be.
In 18 months.
In 18
which I think when you applied, it was a year. So we have recognized that it does take time. But yes, you still got to move. 18 months goes fast. So as a reminder, as Jean mentioned, that timeline will start in roughly January of 2023. So if that helps people lay out their timeline and their Gantt chart to project manage, that could be helpful. And that is one of the things that we do ask people to do as part of the application, is to kind of outline some of the milestones that you would expect to hit and targets. You mentioned your budget. High level, you said you spent money on students, community partner. What did the high level breakdown look like for how you guys prioritized spending the dollars from the grant?
We were transparent and authentic, right? So we were just like, well, what do you need to play the game? That's essentially what, we just had a conversation, right? I cut right to it. I said, how much do you guys need? And they said, we don't need anything. And I said, well, I don't think it's fair to ask you to spend your time without buying some of it out, right? And so it really just became, I'm going to throw a number out there. And then we just kind of negotiated from the number, right? And then, brought on some additional faculty to kind of help and align. And some were incredibly generous and did it in kind. They didn't ask for any money. I'm a junior faculty member. Some of my partners are junior faculty members. So a little bit of stipend work for that. And then we said, all right, how much is left? That all goes towards student work. We needed a license agreement too. That was like $1,000. Something like that. But we really, we were pretty bare bones. What can we get for free? What can we do inexpensively? Thankfully, we had a lot of great infrastructure and help from the Department of Computer Science, right? Building a secure data portal. My work in clinical trials was very easy to draft up a non-disclosure agreement to move data, right? Everyone on our team executes a non-disclosure agreement. What is a Gantt chart? So I'll type it in there. Yeah, Gantt. Yeah, there it is. Thank you, Jennifer. It's just a way to manage your time. Perfect example. I would say that's the way we budgeted. We just said the big picture. What do we need? What can we get for free? Is that unfair, Kelsey? Is that like not a PC response? Or?
I think it's such an honest answer. Like, and I
Right.
think, you know, we give a range, and it's always interesting to see what people spend money on. But I wanted you, which you did allude to the fact that it's good to be scrappy and think about what you really need. Talk to your community partner and understand what it'll take from them, because there's time or other community members that are involved. Jean mentioned it, you did. It's important to pay people for their work and value their expertise that they're bringing to the table. And so have those conversations early on, and then you will be able to meet with us during the budget workshop and ask follow-up questions as you're working on developing it. So you don't need to go into the budget meeting with hard concrete numbers. That'll hopefully give you an idea, but you know, I think that's part of the trust building process, is having some of those conversations.
I think you just nailed it, and I don't think I realized it or I put it into words until now. I think me being pretty upfront, like we want to pay you. I think that helped build trust, where they were like, we don't need any money. And I was like, nah, let's just be honest with each other, right? Kind of a thing. I do, in retrospect, yeah, that was probably really helpful. Thanks, Kelsey.
Oh, thank you for your time. Anything else that I haven't asked you or that you want to share in retrospect that might help some of the folks on the call?
Wouldn't presume to know the expertise of everyone on the call, but I hope everyone has learned that I am incredibly direct and transparent and more than happy to share. And if you guys can benefit from my experience, so fire away. If you'd prefer to talk offline, I'll drop my email in the chat, but otherwise I'll hover and hopefully people chime in.
Great, thank you, Walt. I'll pause here for any additional questions that people might have for Walt or some of the organizers, such as Jean, that has been instrumental in this process since the beginning, that may help you all be set up to be successful in the process.
I see that Shia Vang is on the call. Maybe we can pull her into the conversation and see if she's got anything she'd like to add to this.
Jean, this is so excited, right?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that UWM is so excited to be a part of this. And I know Chancellor Moni, when he asked me to, to be part of the planning committee, I was really thrilled. I'm so glad we, went with the sustainable development, the guidelines. That's broad enough, but it has, one of the most important pieces about how we build strong communities. And so I'm really thrilled to be a part of it. Art, so nice to see you. I just met you last week virtually. So yeah, we're just thrilled. Nothing really to add, but that, Walter, I learned a lot from you too. And I do a lot of community engaged work. And so I'm really thrilled. And I see a lot of colleagues here on this call. So just to say, we're really thrilled. I can't wait to see who comes together to help us make this a fantastic competition.
But I will note that while we've been on this call, I saw, a UWM colleague come in. We have a Marquette group of faculty who've been talking over the course of the last year about poverty and research related to, kind of broad questions of poverty. They are called the Poverty Research Initiative Group. And some of them will be participating in this, but this is kind of an ongoing conversation among folks at Marquette, and they would love to include colleagues from UWM as well as members of the community in activities they do. And so if you are interested in that, again, the innovation@marquette.edu email box is the place where we start, and then we can connect you up to that group. They are kind of thinking about their activities for the fall semester. Our vision at Marquette is, as we build these research communities, where people with common interests can come together. They may not collaborate on a single project, but it offers a community of scholars who can support each other, network with the community, and then, in these really important questions. This for us is a long-term goal. And I know UWM has also tried to build some infrastructure and has been thinking a lot about, the fact that we are much more able to make a big impact if we work together, and particularly if we cross disciplinary boundaries.
And Jean, I just want to add, Vice Provost Mark Harris has and his team has really led a lot of the collaborative research on campus. So just kind of expressing the excitement about collaborating across, the institutions, and many are already collaborating, but how can we strengthen this collaboration even more? And I think that's something that, people are really excited about that. I know I was talking to another colleague, Ann Besting, and I think she's here too, but lots and lots of opportunities for us to, make a difference. So really excited.
If there's no more questions that anyone has right now, we can end this early. As a reminder, we will send out the PowerPoint, the link, the email address, and the recording. So feel free to pass those on to others that maybe weren't able to join. And if you do have questions, please reach out and we'll try and move those through. Art, hey.
Hey, Kelsey, one question. So this is the first time I'm hearing about the initiatives of being newer to Milwaukee. Is there like a key goal that is being sought, like a long-term goal regarding poverty that all the projects kind of build up to? Is that a thing? If that makes sense, is the question, is there a bigger plan or a year 2030 plan or something like that this is a part of?
No, but that's a great question. I believe that, many of us feel that this is a starting point, but then we're going to really have to come. The SDC, and I probably should defer to Chia to talk a little bit about what they're doing around poverty and poverty research. That may be a place that tries to centralize some of this and kind of build out a bigger strategic plan.
I think I earlier I saw Jennifer Harris on there. I don't know if she's still here, but as many of you may have heard, the Institute on Race and Systemic Poverty and Systemic Racism is I'm the appointed UWM commissioner on the board. So really excited about potentially really strengthening that too. Oh, I see Jennifer. So yeah, so that might be where we go next, but I agree with Jean. I mean, this is the first year UWM is participating, but I think there's bigger and more systemic and more integrated work that we can do collectively. So I don't know, Jennifer, do you want to add anything?
I'm just as an observation. Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be with you and hear the great collaboration that's transpiring with the thought of alleviating poverty from Milwaukee. Here at the SDC, that is our grand purpose. It is to aid our residents in moving and alleviating the lived experience of poverty. And so SDC, through Commissioner Vang's work and the phenomenal work of our commissioners, have not only been working on the more transformative, more transferal programs and great services that are needed here in Milwaukee, but now we're looking towards the transformative aspect, researching why people are coming for these services and ensuring that we create a pathway forward to better Milwaukee. So we have a substantial amount of work to do, and we're glad to partner to do it.
Jean, one follow-up question. You mentioned the UN SDG goals in particular. Is there, as a framework, is there a reason why that was used or connected? I mean, I've been actually digging into those with some partners separately, so I'm just curious how that was mentioned here.
And, when we first started the conversation, and I'm going to defer again to Chia on this, and Kelsey, we started first kind of just throwing out ideas, right? So each time we've had a topic, we've tried to put some subheadings of potential, ways to focus the topic, because these are huge problems, right? And they intersect many, many different areas, and many different people are impacted in different ways. And so, trying to find a framework to describe the different ways you could get in and make sustainable and impactful change through research, we felt this was a good framework. I don't know if Kelsey or Chia have anything to add on that.
No, Jean, I mean, your summary is, we were working with Dan Bergen too when he was still,
right.
There. And so I think you're right. The framework, sometimes when you start something newer, it's really, it's nice to develop new frameworks all by yourself and, be innovative, but some of these sustainable development goals are so impactful already. And so I think the way we were thinking about it is that, when something already exists that we can use to inform our work, then why don't we just do that? And so, because you're right, Jean, we were thinking about topics, what to focus on this year. And the more we talked about it, the more it's so aligned with a lot of the development goals. So it makes sense for us to just, be informed by those.
And I see Mark Harris is on the call as well. We can see if he would like to jump in and offer any words of wisdom for folks, because he does so much work in building collaborative research relationships.
Thanks, Jean.
No escape for you.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm Mark Harris. I'm the Vice Provost for Research at UWM, and I was really enthused when we first started talking about this program, because we've been looking at research collaborations and trying to figure out how to get people together. And I think what was really exciting about this, and Jean and I have kind of a history of worrying about this, is really getting the different institutions together. And I know it's going to be a stretch for people. We haven't done this much, but I really, really appreciate the efforts to be made to kind of assemble our collective wisdom in this real progress. So I'm really excited that this program is getting started. And like Jane, I really appreciate Johnson Controls got interested and really helped catalyze this into a slightly bigger event. I think it would have been otherwise. So I really want to thank everyone who's both worked on this, who's looking at it, who'll be applying, who are kind of using this as an opportunity to start talking with each other. So I think that's enough for 4:15 in the afternoon. So just hello, everyone.
All right, Kelsey, maybe you can wrap us up.
Yeah, thanks everyone for the great questions and engagement and joining us today. We'll end this a few minutes early and really looking forward to seeing pre-proposals and questions that you have so we can help support you as you move through this process. Thanks for joining.
Thanks a lot, Kelsey. Jean, good to see you guys.